when I'm on stage, I'm the focal point, and that's what I do.
Because you've been such a successful hit maker, do you have a particular philosophy about making hits? Because again, your ability to move through genres, you know.
My philosophy is don't think about it.
Yeah.
I worked with, we opened for everybody from David Bowie to Billy Paul and Stevie Wonder. I mean, go on and on and on.
So only in the record business does your old label release a song that you had before to capitalize on your success with the other label that you're now signed to.
Yeah.
And of course, we're talking about She's Gone,
right?
Which they reissue becomes, I think, number 7.
Yeah.
You must have been like, okay, like, sure.
I wasn't complaining.
Right.
I just thought, well, okay, you screwed it up the first time, so try and do it right the second time.
Yeah. And of course, it's a classic now, which is funny how those things work, you know?
Yeah.
How much after that kind of was reissued did Tavares do their cover, which was also a hit, number 1 R&B?
My brain, I'm forgetting what came out first. Tavares did it, but I don't know if they did it before
the reissue.
Re-release. I think Tavares did it, and then ours was released.
Because their version's great too.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, really cool. I'm curious because, okay, now you're having your first true success. You've got 2 hit singles. I mean, for people like us, it's like, wow. I mean, it's
2 hit singles.
It's actually happening. I'm that guy, right?
Yeah.
What was your personal life like then?
It was well, I was living in the Village in New York, and with Sarah Allen, and I was on the road a lot.
Right.
You know,
were you doing those package tours where it's like you guys?
I was playing with everybody, man. I worked with, we opened for everybody from David Bowie to Billy Paul and Stevie Wonder. I mean, go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Cheech and Chong.
Wow.
No, we didn't open. No, they opened for us.
Yeah. How'd you get on with Bowie? He must have. I don't know. I knew David a bit. He must have loved what you were doing.
Yeah, this was too early to. This was the second show he played in the United States.
Is this Ziggy Stardust time?
Yeah, this is the first Ziggy thing.
Okay,
and it was in Memphis, Tennessee, and it blew my mind, to tell you the truth. But
he's so good.
But I mean, you know, they were treating him like he was, I don't know what. They would carry him around, and it was
well, that's when he was with Tony DeFries.
Yeah, all that.
Tony DeFries was charging him 50%, putting him in limos and bankrupting him, so everyone would
whole Tony DeFries situation. Oh man, he had these guys in karate suits walking around. I mean, it was stupid. But you know, I love David, man. I mean,
yeah.
I'm
curious because I don't think there's any information that I saw. Because you've been such a successful hit maker, do you have a particular philosophy about making hits? Because again, your ability to move through genres, you know.
If I have a philosophy, it's that I don't know what a hit is.
Okay.
I am always surprised if something is successful commercially or not.
So you wouldn't fall in the trap of thinking, okay, this one's going to be a hit.
I mean, sometimes I think it's going to happen, and it doesn't happen at all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, sometimes I say to my fans, you know, if I knew how to recreate it, I would, you know.
Oh, yeah, they always say, what's your formula? I said, are you kidding?
Well, that's why I asked more of a philosophy, you know.
Yeah, no, my philosophy is don't think about it.
Yeah. I do think it's remarkable that obviously there's cultural influences in your music as you go through the eras, but you seem overall immune to trend. Is that a fair comment, you think?
Yeah. I think I'm out of the, you know, sui generis kind of thing. You know, it's I try and even I don't do it at all now. I don't even pay any attention to trend. But even in days when it was more important because of the way radio worked and all that.
Yeah.
I still only just picked and chose little things to try and be relevant and congruent with the other
Sure.
people that were on the radio.
Yeah.
Although my stuff wound up not really sounding like everybody else.
Yeah. Were you receiving any particular business pressure to go in a particular direction at that time?
Yeah. I always used to get like Tommy Mottola pressure, that kind of stuff.
Can you define that?
Uh,
It would be very good if you would.
Stop playing those guitar songs. Stay with the piano.
Yeah, I had a manager once tell me, "You write songs that girls like. What is all this heavy, loud guitar music?" He said you should just stick with the pretty girl songs.
Oh yeah, this is all.
That was 1990, which is before all.
I wrote "You Make My Dreams." He said, "What's that, Charles Dickens?" What is that supposed to mean?
Oh my God. Okay, so we're at the watershed moment of the second Atlantic album. Rich Girl goes #1. Great, still one of the great songs all time. Is there a fresh story there about that song?
I don't know if it's a fresh story. There is the story.
All right, tell me this story.
I mean, I've told this story, but it was Sarah Allen's college boyfriend, who she still not hung out with, but, knew. And he came to our house, our apartment, and he was tripping or something. I don't know. He was acting pretty crazy. And he happened to be an heir to a fast food place in Chicago. In Chicago area.
Was it Sausage King stuff?
It was one of those kind of things, yeah. And he left. I went, man, he's a rich boy, but he's gone too far. And then I sat down and went, he's a rich boy and he's gone too far. And that's about as far as I got. And then I said, no, that don't sound right. So I changed it to Rich Girl and then finished the song.
I'm curious at this stage, because I know how the music business works all too well. There had to be someone in your ear telling you it's time to go solo. There had to be.
My real friends.
Okay.
As opposed to the business people.
Was there any internal dilemma for you of following that?
There was a lot of people, and this went on for quite a while, where people were saying, why don't you just?
Are you innately a loyal person?
I am, actually. I mean, I do consider myself very loyal.
Yeah.
And to a fault sometimes. And I did this. I bucked it and went with Robert and did those 2 records with Robert, and that was when I was actually making a statement, going like, okay, I'm doing a solo thing, but I got so much pushback from my manager, Mottola, and the record company. It just made it impossible. They sabotaged it. That's really what happened. I mean, as simple as that.
Is it because they're like, this is working, don't mess it up?
The old cash cow, they liked it. They thought Hall Oates was more viably, was more commercial to their interests.
Do you wish now that you had heeded that call?
I wish that I would have done more with Robert. Yes. Yeah. And he does too. I mean, Robert and I are close friends.
Yeah.
And,
another total gentleman.
Yeah, a great guy, really great guy. And I just saw him a couple of weeks ago, and I wish that we had done more together. Yes, I do. I mean, he was into it. He was pushing for it. He said, "Let's go. Let's." He wanted to call it League of Gentlemen. He said,
okay,
and you be the singer, and then we'll write songs and da-da-da. And then I just it got too much pressure. I mean, I was living in a bubble. I will be first to say that I was almost semi-hypnotized by it all, because I was kept in a situation where I didn't really have any advisors.
They did that back then very well.
In the business. I mean, everybody was on the side against me, and they were all in collusion with each other, whether it be lawyers or accountants or record company or the whole thing, management. And they were all saying the same thing: stick with Oates, stick with Oates, stick with Oates. And then I did the Voices album, and that was around the time when I could have made that choice of either going and doing some
77.
No, this was more like 79.
Okay.
Yeah. And whether I was going to do this thing with Robert or I was going to make an album for RCA.
Yeah.
And I did it. And then, I don't know what you want to call it. Fortunately,
they kind of buried it.
Well, it became, I mean, that was Kiss on my list and all that stuff.
Okay.
You know? So then it was successful.
Mm. I do remember, because I was a fan, I do remember when you seemed to, at least publicly, felt like you guys made this pivot to what became more of an 80s sound. I was surprised that when you went there a lot earlier than a lot of people. So
Yeah.
in many ways, I think you're probably more influential in that space than I would have given you credit for, because in my mind, that stuff was more like mid 80s, but like it really starts about 1980, which was Kiss on My List. And was that something that you had decided internally? Like where'd that come from?
It wasn't a decision. It was the fact that we were producing ourselves pretty much with the engineer. And I had been spending most of my time in England, and I think that's why
you picked up on
I picked up on it because it was happening faster over there, and so there was that influence.
What was attractive about that? Because there's 80s music is kind of cool. It's alien in a way, but it's got a coldness too. But that's what makes it pretty.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was just a different sound.
Yeah. So there's nothing like you had this kind of moment. It's just like you just kind of drifted there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. You guys go on this hellacious run. So You Lost That Loving Feeling goes to number 5. Kiss on My List, number 1. You Make My Dreams Come True, number 5. Private Eyes, number 1. I Can't Go For That. That was number 1. Maneater, number 1. Obviously not all in a row. And Out of Touch, number 1. That's like crazy land.
It was
success.
It was whatever it was that we were doing, people were suddenly really liked.
What do you think it was about that, looking back, that
it's very hard for me to tell you. It doesn't sound like other people. It sounds very much like me. And
it's to my ears, it still sounds super fresh, which is weird because
that's what everybody says. I think
it's like the kind of thing, if it came out today, it would still work. Which is weird.
That's part of its lasting success.
Yeah.
These songs, I mean, I play them on stage all the time.
Yeah.
Without John, and nobody seems to, it sounds the same.
Well, we'll just leave that live for a moment. Okay, now. I asked you before what your life was like when you started. Okay, now you're in a totally different stratosphere of success. I mean, the whole world knows who you are, especially back then. You're on MTV every 5 seconds. I mean, you're probably being recognized.
That whole MTV thing, I mean, that took it to another place because it coincided exactly with the initial success of
right place, right time.
Run.
I mean,
totally right place, right time, and we were dominating that whole network. I mean, I was a guest DJ all the time, VJ all the time. And, they just give us 5 hours to do whatever you want, that kind of stuff.
Now, for those paying attention to our conversation, I mean, you are the dominant vocal force in this moment of high achievement. And it's, I'm not saying it's unprecedented, but you're in that sort of weird Beatles stratosphere where you have this run of hits that's like, I mean, it's only a few groups have ever had anything remotely like that.
Well, in the 80s, just me and Billy Joel.
Okay.
We were the two.
Okay, so give me a little bit what your life is like then. Let's start there.
It was the old cliche. It was like a whirlwind, and we were a hurricane. We were in the.
Did you enjoy it? Or?
Not really. No, if you want the truth, I didn't find it that pleasant because that wasn't my motivation to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm a musician. I don't, I'm not looking for attention, if you want, and it was I couldn't go anywhere. It was I couldn't go out of the house. I had people bothered me all the time. I couldn't go shopping, couldn't go to the supermarket, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't like it.
Were you still living in the city then?
No, I was living up here.
Okay,
Not
so
here.
you got the hell out. Yeah.
Yeah. I still had an apartment in New York, but I was living in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And, but it was just really hard. And then combine that with the whatever happens on the road. That was big 80s time, with all the excess and everything. Thank God I was in a drug. I wasn't a drug guy, but, it was some wild, man.
Yeah. What's your relationship like with your musical partner at this time? Because, at least from an observational point of view, and again, I was listening to you guys back in the 70s, so I was aware of the partnership. But at this point, I mean, you are like the face of the thing. Who cares what it's called? I mean, it's very much you that's singing the songs on TV. What was your relationship like with then?
We had a pretty good one, I have to say. I mean, it was, we were together in the midst of all this, so that drew us.
That sort of bond you?
Yeah, drew us together.
Yeah. So it didn't bring anything out that you look back now that sort of shows the seeds of kind of where you guys ended up. Does it make sense?
Only in small ways.
Okay. I'm curious too, because there was that interesting time, like, Bowie has Let's Dance. He's playing stadiums. Tina Turner has this massive comeback. She's playing stadiums. And I'm not saying you guys didn't have a lot of success. You were obviously huge. But I mean, there had to be some point where you thought, I could have that for me.
This is the big question mark. And this came up in another podcast where the guy said, yeah, I was a student at a not Marist College, but a Catholic college in Western Pennsylvania. And you guys played in the assembly room. And it was like 1982. And he said, we were thinking, why are they here? Why are they playing here? And ask anybody, and they're going to say, ask anybody in the live world, any agent that was around back in those days, and they're going, why the did he do what he did to you? Why were you staying in Holiday Inns and playing high schools when you should have been playing stadiums?
Okay. But back to my point, because to me, this is sort of the crux of what I'm after is, I mean, if it was me sitting in front of a TV watching my contemporaries
I used to say, why is so-and-so doing this? And why am I here? And I would get double talk. I would just get double.
Yeah.
Why are they making all this money? But
didn't the math kick in at some point where you thought, not only can I get out of this, but the
math kicked in, everything kicked in, but I was trapped.
Okay.
I was literally trapped in a world where I'd said this before, where every single person in my business world was on the other side.
Right. I know that feeling, so that's why I'm nodding my head, because it's hard to explain if you haven't experienced it. It's sort of a haunting. It's like it's the famous movie Gaslight, right? It's like you're being gaslit, and
you're being gaslit.
Yeah.
It's
people say stuff to you like, "Don't get too full of yourself,"
Yeah,
all that stuff.
Or there would always somehow the wolf would be at the door.
Yeah.
There would always be some reason why the money's tight. That kind of.
Yeah, or you're only good as your last hit.
Yeah, any of that.
I'm abusing the quote, and again, it's the internet. So if it's not your quote, please tell me. But I saw a quote where you said something along the lines of, "Every artistic form has its golden age, and unfortunately, mine ended in 1990." Is that something you said? Do you think
I said that?
I saw it attributed to you, but it doesn't mean
every artist has a golden age that ended in 1990.
No. Every artist. Every artistic form has its golden age. And unfortunately, what I was good at, or what I was sort of recognized for, that ended in 1990.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
But what I did say is close to that, and somehow that got turned. I said that every era has artistic situation has its golden age.
Oh, okay.
And that age ended in 1990.
Okay. Then maybe had
nothing to do with me.
Okay. Okay. God bless you. I didn't mean it that way. What I took it as is that, tide shift, and oftentimes great success is followed by a sort of a period of confusion because it's almost impossible to sustain that level of intensity.
Yeah, well, you have to. One has to adapt and evolve. I mean, I think that when I look back on it, my period as a quote pop star, whatever you want to call that, I think that kind of wound down around 1990.
Sure.
But then something else kicked in,
Yeah.
and so I think that did coincide with the end of a certain golden age of pop music.
Yeah.
And now I think that I might end that now because I think that pop music is bigger than it ever was now. But it's a different
True.
kind. But it's a different kind of pop music.
True.
It's a whole different.
You would have in your youthful prime. I mean, you would have still been able to be a dominant force because your ability to move.
I probably would have be able to swim in those waters.
I take that bet on you. I'm not. My show is not about gossip, so please understand why I'm asking this. There's not a lot of information about your relationship with Sarah Allen, so I'm more interested in the musical part of the partnership.
Okay.
Did you?
Well, I can tell you both, really, even
Okay.
though this is gossip. I mean, Sandy and I call her name is Sarah Sandy. We were together for a long time, almost 28 years, something like that. And she was, and her sister, I always have to add her to it, were very influential. I mean, a lot of the best songs in that period of time were written by the three of
Private Eyes, I Can't Go For That, and Maneater.
Right. Well, I Can't Go For That there's a lot of misattribute. What's the word? Misattribute. Yeah, there you go. That
we'll agree on that. We'll agree that we don't know how to say it.
Yeah, however you say that. In writer's credits. You can't go by writer's credits.
Okay.
But, and I'll say that for No Can Do. I wrote that song. Nobody else.
Okay.
But you mentioned Kiss and Private Eyes.
Yeah,
that was Alan's sisters and me, and I the Kiss on my list was a song I wrote with Jana Allen. She was only 20 years old, and she came up with it with the chorus, and then I fleshed out the verse, and that was a real collaboration. And with Private Eyes, she brought Private Eyes to the table. She had written this kind of template for the song with a guy named Warren Pash, and they gave it to me, and I altered it and changed it, and then Sarah and I wrote the words. So I mean, these were collaborations between them, and Sandy really had a lot to do with this stuff.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm interested in is your life in 50 plus years in music. It's defined by these partnerships, and in this case, it's a personal relationship. And again, I'm not sort of after the gossip part of it. It's like, do you feel good that your life is defined by partnerships, or do you still have some part of you that thought I should have sort of stood in my own light at some point? Does that make sense? I'm not trying to assign anything to you. I'm just curious.
When I'm on stage, I'm the focal point, and that's what I do. I mean, when I'm on stage, I don't have any partners. It's just me, and when I'm creating, sometimes I have partners within a project, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I write songs on my own.
Yeah,
it's flexible.
Yeah, I recently interviewed Sam Moore. Unfortunately, he just passed away. I think it might have even been his last interview. And I was asking him about his partnership with Dave. And I said, looking back, how do you feel about Dave? And he goes, I don't think much of Dave.
Well, I hate to say it, but that seems to be a common thing, especially with duos.
Yeah.
Is
it ultimately they're by nature there becomes a power imbalance at some point?
Yeah.
It wasn't any different in my band.
I think it's inevitable. I mean, well, even in a band, usually a band has two people doing things. That's more
great
common.
Bands. Everybody does something, which is where it gets wild.
True. But you know what I mean? It's like, look at the Beatles. I mean, it was Lennon and McCartney, and then it was the other.
But isn't it crazy with the Beatles that like you got the guitar player who can also write hits. That's just where
that's what made. I mean,
that's where your mind just blows. It's like, how do you have
that's the
three
best,
guys who can write songs?
That's the best kind of band. But
I didn't get that. I didn't get
I
that
think
band.
more commonly it's usually two guys that expand upon themselves and form a band.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? I can't remember. Anyway,
well, no, we were talking about. I asked you, and I was sort of asking you. You know, your life is defined in many ways by your partnerships. You know, obviously there's the one that everybody knows because it was the name of the door for 50 years. But even in your personal life with this 28-year relationship, there was a musical component to that partnership too.
I think a lot of people's lives are defined by their partnerships outside of music.
Yeah,
I think that's part of life.
But not everybody lives it in the glare of the public light.
That's the difference. That's the difference.
Which is why I'm asking you these invasive questions.
But my partnerships are varied. So it's not. I guess I'm not creatively monogamous.
I like that. I'd like to talk a little bit about Daryl's House because it's such a great show. I love the spirit of Daryl's House. I mean, it's one of those shows as a musician. The first time I watched it, I was like, this is great. This is just musicians celebrating music, having a good time. I know it kind of came in a somewhat spontaneous way, right? There wasn't some game plan. It's just kind of happened.
No, I had one of those moments and I just went like, wait a minute. Instead of traveling the world, why don't I do something where the world comes to me, and in my house, you know, everything opposite land, and instead of having an audience, no audience, and it's just have a good time.
Yeah,
really.
I was watching this morning your episode with Booker T.
Oh
and knowing you love that music from Stax and
that was a good
Sigma.
One,
but I mean, there's got to be that little kid in you that's still like, oh my God, I'm hanging out with Booker T.
Yeah. I get flashes. That happens a lot with some of my idols that have been on the show. I mean, maybe the most extreme two would be one of my early ones with Smokey when he came there, and I was like, wait a minute, Smokey came up here to do this.
Yeah.
And then more recently was when I did it with the OJs, and that was like, again, baby food. That's Philly.
Yeah.
And you know, we went to a place, and that's when I really start floating, you know. And Booker T, I remember singing ain't no love, and I was like, yeah, he wrote that song, man. That was always I'm a teenager and I love that song.
Yeah. What do you want people to understand about Daryl's House? Meaning, what is the message you want them to walk away with? Because there's a consistency there, but I'd like to hear it in your own words.
I think the people, I mean, I don't know if it's necessary, but I want them to know how spontaneous it really is, and how good my band is. They're outrageous, man. They can do things that blows my mind. We did the show when with Robert Fripp, and we did the song Red, one of his
it's King Crimson, right?
Yeah, King Crimson Red, and we didn't even rehearse it. I mean, we rehearsed it separately.
Okay,
this is what we do. We rehearse things separately, and then we come in the room and we just play it.
Wow.
Everybody works on their own parts.
and King Crimson is a little bit.
And Robert flipped out. He went, I have never played this song with anybody that it didn't take them at least 3 days of hard work to learn how to play. And we did it in 10 minutes.
Since we're in this beautiful house built in the 1700s, it's like late 1700s, what is it about your love of old homes and restoring these things? Like what have you found in privately that you didn't find in the world?
Well, I like many traveling people who I've done most of my life, I really have a real desire, a domestic desire to balance it out. That's one thing. Number two, I grew up with this stuff. I grew up in Chester County, Pennsylvania, outside of Philly, and I grew up with old houses. You know, I
Mhm.
grew up with colonial and
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. I was born in one. Um, so is that, and also, some people collect art. I like to live within art,
Mm.
and that's what this is. To me, this is a giant painting. So there you go.
Thank you. I used AI for this thing, but I was sort of surprised. I said, tell me your touring history starting in 2000, and it's like 43 shows, 65 shows, 35 shows. I mean, there's this consistent going out and playing.
Hmm.
And then 2022, 7 shows, and that's it, between you and Mr. Oates.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to remember what we knew this was kind of after the pandemic. It's just, I think a lot of people's mind changed and a lot of people's ideas coalesced and thoughts and
Can you
focused.
quantify that though?
I think that any of all those kind of underlying resentments
Oh
or
wow, okay.
desires to go off on their own or do what you haven't done in the past. I think the pandemic, that silence, that
It was a
staying
deafening silence. Yeah.
staying in one place and breaking all patterns. I think that definitely was the catalyst for us to go in different directions.
Okay. So was it just an understanding, or you just, okay, that's it?
It was believe it or not, and people can't believe this, but it was his idea.
Okay.
Uh, he wanted to go off and live in Nashville and do whatever the hell he does.
Yeah. So here's the setup on our finish. I asked AI again, so it's AI, but I said, where does this group fit on the all-time list of success? And it came back with a very interesting answer. It said, in the rock and roll era, 1956 to present day, Hall Oates is the 40th biggest artist of all time.
I don't know how you quantify that.
Well, it tried to, but I'm saying it's still when you consider the competition, you've done quite well.
Well, I mean that's flattering. I don't think it means anything.
It does something to me. It does to me because it's because how can I put it? Success can be an illusory thing to the public, depending on who's on television and who gets pushed, and what songs get played, and what payola and.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
all those factors.
The public eventually figures out who the real deal people are, and the Spotify numbers eventually sort of reflect that, because that public will come back again to those important artists. Also, I asked where you rank on the duo list, all-time biggest duo, based on the quantification there, in terms of it was to measure box office. Meaning sales and chart success. So it's very interesting to see it that way, against whether it's the Everly Brothers and 6 #1 hit songs. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at, as we say back in Chicago.
Yeah.
So knowing it's ended a bit sour with Mr. Oates, are you cool with that? I'm not saying that stuff, but I'm saying, are you cool with the choices you've made? Are you like, yeah, okay, I would basically, would you do it all over again?
No.
Okay.
I would have done it differently. There's many things I would have done differently, and they would have produced different result, but I don't doubt that they would have been okay with me, whatever that was.
Yeah.
But I listened to the wrong people for way too long. I allowed myself, because I'm not a weak person, but I allowed myself to get wrapped up in.
Well, if I can give you some confirmation on that, up until you started Daryl's House, I saw you in this kind of preserved in amber kind of way. Big artist. I saw you as the front man. That was easy in my mind. But I didn't really know you. You know what I mean? It wasn't until Daryl's House where I was like, oh, there's a soulful person in there.
Yeah.
There's a person who loves music.
There's
a generous spirit.
That's another one of my motivations. to have done the show. I felt like people didn't know who I was.
I've been listening to you for, like I said, I started listening to you for Sarah Smile.
Yeah.
And for the first time in 2007-ish or something, I'm like, oh, there's this guy, which is why I'm here. You know, if it was just about music, I don't think I would have come, because it's just a cold pop star on a shelf somewhere.
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
That really, I should have said that when you asked me about why did I do Daryl's House. That was one of my main motivations, is I felt like people didn't know what my motivations were, who I was, what kind of person I was.
Yeah.
I think they had a completely different idea of what kind of person I was.
Yeah. You know how the kids say you get your flowers? Do you feel like you finally gotten your flowers here in this?
Yeah, I got plenty of flowers. I got all fucking forest of flowers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, God bless. Again, not interested in the gossip, but I think it helps understand, because legal issues can be complicated. So, and I'm pretty conversant. I did some pretty deep research, because when the story came out about your lawsuit against John Oates, you know, it's the public, you know, he says type of thing. I knew right away that you wouldn't have been doing what you're doing if there wasn't some sort of legal foundation. That was my first read, but I've actually taken time to understand the suit as presented. But can you, I call it the punter way, can you tell people what the sort of foundational?
I can't really talk about it too much because I'm still in the middle of it, but it wasn't a lawsuit. It was a restraining order.
Okay.
And what that was to stop him from basically selling the company.
Yeah. You had a shared company, or you have a shared company.
He tried to sell the company without telling me.
Yeah. So
that's all I could say about it.
Okay, great. So, but from an emotional, not great, but you understand. But from an emotional point of view, I mean, a 50-year plus partnership, that must have been an interesting kind of cold water.
There was a lot of things. It was, again, after the pandemic, I felt like I was dealing with a different person.
Do you see that in hindsight as this kind of long simmering?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know the motivation. I don't know if I ever will. It hurt me. It took me by surprise. Can I just say I gave him a hell of a lot, you know?
Yeah. Well, that seems to be the general perception from the fan community.
Well, I'm saying that because I have support to say that, but I mean, I don't know why he did what he did.
Yeah.
Nobody else does.
I know you're in a legal situation, but can you at least view it empathetically? That might be a too Piscean a question, but
view him with empathy?
Sometimes the analogy that comes to mind, excuse the bad song analogy, but sometimes people put their cards on the table, right? And once their cards on the table, you're like, okay, now I finally understand. This explains some of what's been happening over here.
I think that I just explain it as well as I can, but there's things that I don't understand myself.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is, at least in my own situation, sometimes when people reveal themselves, it's almost refreshing. It's like, okay, now at least we're dealing with your version versus my version, as opposed to this other thing that I thought I was in.
At first, there was the initial shock and surprise, and then I knew what I was dealing with.
Okay.
And then it was adversarial.
Okay. If given the opportunity, which is what I'm after, is there something you want people to understand about that musical relationship? Because you know how the public is. You were both on the poster, you're both on the album. I know in my own life, when I've tried to delineate what I've actually done in my group, you almost get this weird pushback. Like, don't spoil our fantasy. You're like, somehow you're the wizard behind the curtain that's killing the vibe.
Yeah. Well, I think there were certain fans that wanted to believe, but I think what I'm finding out subsequently, because I go out there and play in front of people and do what I do, that there wasn't that much of that belief.
Okay.
I think there was a lot of, okay, I get it. But I do think that there was misunderstanding that I threw him out of the band, which is the opposite.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite.
Yeah, well, that's just the modern life. They need a bad guy to make the story work.
They try to. At first, people try to make me a bad guy, but I think even now they're realizing. At least the people that come to my shows realizing.
I'm not asking you to comment on the lawsuit, but at least my understanding of the lawsuit was he basically goes against the partnership agreement, tries to sell his share of it to Primary Wave, doesn't tell you. you had to give permission for any sale, so you don't even get notification, and then he puts you in a corner and basically forces you to deal with a third party.
You hit it on the head.
Okay. So at least for people watching, if they haven't.
I'm glad you're saying that. That's good.
Yeah.
Because then people can hear that.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking for a happy ending, but maybe there's not a happy ending.
Oh, the happy ending is I'm out there working and I have an album called D.
Well,
we didn't even talk about that.
Well, let's talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
We did talk about it at the beginning, to be fair.
Yeah. No, I mean, really talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, now that I'm saying that, what am I going to say about it? It's an album of joy, and it was cathartic. It was fun to make. It was, I think, really, really musically successful, and it showed what a great partnership Dave and I have. What a really good partnership can be.
Yeah, I was struck listening to it yesterday. I was struck by how joyous it is, full of life. I particularly I'm 58 years old, and you're just a little bit older than me. And so I found it inspiring because you have not given up the ghost,
No, I'm hanging out with the ghosts.
America's a little slow compared to the European version of letting people like us age gracefully and still make music.
It's an unusual thing. I mean, you get bogged down by your own baggage. I think in a lot of cases, you get to be my age and my experience, and I think when it's like finding a new love or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's never too late, and you can be inspired by all kinds of things.
Last thing, because I've heard some stuff behind the scenes, and there was some talk with Paul McCartney, with how they always were like Lennon and McCartney, and at one point even I think I heard where Paul wanted to switch, his songs would say McCartney Lennon. And is it important for you for people to understand what your contribution was? Or are you okay if they want to think whatever they want to think?
Well, I they can think what they want to think.
Because again, like I said, as a fan of yours for almost 40 years, right? The pleasure of doing an interview like this with you, it's like I'm put in a position where I have to sort of make decisions, right? And sort of check my fan version of reality. And, going back to the first time I heard Sarah Smile on a little record player. And I think what's interesting is that, you've made this incredibly well-received music and certainly benefited from it in terms of public interest. But, like I said, when I was talking about Elton John, there's been very few moments where you've had that breakout moment where it's really been about you. And I think there's something unfair about that. And so I appreciate you being so open to talk about these things, because I think that's part of, it's not a restoration project. You don't deserve restoration. You've already done it. My point is, but for someone like me as a fan, it does help to know that there's a sort of a truer story to the thing, at least from your perspective, because it makes me appreciate you even more, what you've contributed to my life as a musician. Well,
I think that my answer to that would be that I became really me when I started doing the series, the Live from Daryl's House series. That's what I broke out and became me.
Yeah. Well, here we are. God bless you. Thank you.
Yeah, bro.